Welcome to both of you. Tom, it looks like one of the culprits was the online sales, which came in light. But on the plus side, AWS, the cloud business, came in pretty strong. How would you characterize the quarter overall?
Yes, if you look at the quarter, it shows a quarter where the excess performance for AWS and then also okay performance in advertising from a profitability standpoint wasn't able to overcome weakness online. And I think when you look at it through Shopify's lens, Shopify also indicated today that consumers once again in the third quarter resumed shopping in physical stores once they were vaccinated. So that's how I'm looking at the initial results from Amazon.
You know, the stock had underperformed really since the last earnings, and it was a big miss for Amazon then. Is Amazon losing momentum in a longer, more worrisome term for the bulls, or do you just see this as short-term issues that everyone's dealing with, like supply chain and labor and coming off of COVID?
I do think there is
I think supply chain.
Oh, sorry, that was for Ed. Tom, we'll get back to you.
So it's all good. It's all good. No, I think supply chain and labor is definitely the issue here. What I liked in this note is that they're talking about how they've doubled their fulfillment network in the past year and a half since COVID, which I think that's really, that investment's going to pay off for them, because really Amazon is more a services company than they really are an e-commerce company. I mean, third-party sellers count for about half of what they're selling themselves. So I think the more that they lean into the services element, the more that, that becomes sort of their real value proposition. Bezos has always talked about they're a platform company. They're not a commerce company. And I think the way that they've been managing this, as well as, of course, AWS, as well as Prime Video, et cetera, all that stuff, it's a platform. And I think that's where they're leaning into. And I think this miss is more just the moment versus longer term.
So, Tom, it's now down 4%. Clearly, the bigger part of the miss was on the bottom line, not the top line. Do you agree with the sentiment there from Ed that the kind of costs aspect of the miss will be temporary and not prolonged?
I agree with him to the extent that if you look at the challenges right now from a supply chain and logistics standpoint, you can make an argument every link in the chain is broken when you think about either manufacturers in China or getting the product from Asia to the U.S., getting it off the port, and even getting it in a truck, and ultimately the fulfillment center to the consumer. So I think that has, elements of a 6-month, 12-month challenge. So in that regard, yes, I think that's somewhat temporary.
Ed, I was curious how Amazon specifically is dealing with the labor shortage. Obviously, it's raising costs here. We know that. But Amazon has had problems and reputational issues around its workers, factory workers, warehouse workers for a while now. And just the latest flare-up, a group in New York wanting to unionize. So do you think it's having more trouble than other companies in this regard?
My colleagues have done some great reporting recently on that front. I think the unionization efforts at Amazon are only going to get sort of more vociferous, right? Because they're becoming, one of the largest employers in the country. And I think that's where, people on the union side see it as a huge, huge bet, right? If they can unionize Amazon, that all the other sort of dominoes fall into place. And, Amazon is actually sort of facing a lot of pressure there. So they see that. I think they're anticipating higher costs there. And they've sort of hinted at it in this note, not just because labor costs are going up in general, but because of these unionization efforts. If it succeeds, it will really change, bottom line metrics for them, to put it another way. But they're a bellwether, right, in a lot of ways for the larger labor economy, which is why people on their union side really want to see this entire company sort of collective bargaining.
Tom, what will be the key things you'll listen out for on the call?
Yeah, the key things will be, did they see consumers again return to physical stores in the September quarter as they saw in the June quarter? That really, I think, slowed the e-commerce, and to what extent they have confidence in being able to manage the supply chain to get consumers products for the important holiday period. Otherwise, I think it's going to be a digital holiday period, which isn't terrible for Amazon when you think about ebooks or things of that nature, but focusing really in on supply chain challenges and how they're managing them.